Lesson 16 is going to be talking about multi-digit division, and we're going to be using a divide by 10 pattern rule to help us make sense of long division. To help us understand this divide by 10 patterns rule, we're going to take a look at 420 divided by 10. And the first strategy that we're going to use is looking at discs. So I'm going to need to make my 420, which is also called my dividend, into discs. I'm going to have 100s discs and I'm going to have 10s discs. Since I have 4 in the hundreds, I'm going to draw my 400s discs here. And each of these discs is worth 100. And then for my 10s, I'm going to draw 2 discs, and each of these is worth 10. We just need to know that the rest of these are worth 100. And now what I want to do is I want to take those discs and I want to divide them by 10, also known as our divisor. So knowing what I know about dividing by 10, if I take 100 discs, and I divide by 10, I am moving my decimal to the left because I'm making my number smaller. So each of these 100 discs is now going to become a 10 disc. Since I have 4 100s discs, I'm going to make 4 new 10s discs. And now I'm going to move on to my 10s discs in my original problem. And again, knowing what I know about dividing by powers of 10, when I'm dividing by 10, I move that decimal 1 over, and my new number is 1. So each of these 10 discs now becomes a 1 disc. And then to get my answer, I kind of count these up. 10, 20, 30, 40, or I can think about 4 in the tens place and then 2 in my ones. So 420 divided by 10 is 42. Now I'm going to think about 420 divided by 10 using a place value chart. So first I'm going to put my numbers here, 400 or 400s, 2 10s, and 0 1s. And knowing what I know about the place value chart and dividing by 10, when I divide by 10, I'm going to move my number over one column. So each of these lines represents dividing by 10. So here, 0 divided by 10 would be 0 in the tens place, and then my tens place would move over 1, so 2 1s, and then my hundreds would move over 1 place, and it would be 4 10s. So here I have 42, just like my number up here. Now let's think about dividing by 10s using a bigger power of 10 here in 16,000 divided by 100. Same idea still applies. I'm going to take a look at discs, and it looks like I have 1,000s disc. And then in my hundreds place, I will have, looks like 600s discs. So I'm just going to do 1 with the 100. And then I will just do 5 other discs, knowing that each of these discs equals 100. So 3, 4, 5, and 6. And using the discs and knowing what I know about dividing by powers of 10, I'm going to be moving that decimal over and creating new discs. So with my 1000s disc, since I have 2 zeros and I'm dividing by 100, I'm moving this decimal over 1, 2. So this thousands discs now becomes a tens disc. And then my hundreds discs, when 100 divided by 100 is equal to 1, which is a very important rule for what we're going to be becoming. So each of these hundreds discs is now going to just become a ones disc. And I'll draw that 1 here, and then we'll just know that the rest of these is 1, 3, 5, and 6. So what I have left here is 1 in my tens and 6. So I know that 1600 or 1600 divided by 100 is equal to 16. And then using our place value, kind of the same principle applies. I'm going to put in my dividend here in 1600. And since I am dividing by 100 now, I need to move over 2 columns. So there's a 1, 2. So my 1 now is a 100th. 1, 2. My 10 is now a tenth. 1, 2. So my 100 is now a 1. And my 1,000 is now a 10. So same answer here, 16 as I got with my discs. Another way to look at this, just to bridge to what we're going to be doing next, is that I could rewrite this 1600 divided by 100 in word form. So this would be, if I decompose it into hundreds, it would be 16 hundreds. And I'm just going to label this hundreds with an H. And it would be divided by 100. With an H. And then if I wanted to, I could rewrite all of this or reorder it. So it would be 16 divided by 1 in a parentheses because I'm doing that operation together, and then it would be the hundreds divided by the 100, which, knowing what I know about the discs, 100 divided by 100, or anything divided by itself, is always equal to 1. And then I have my 16 divided by 1 here, which is just 16. And then because these parentheses are together with no symbol, that means multiplication. And so my answer would be 16 multiplied by 1, which is 16. So this right here is going to be very useful in looking at the multi-digit division in dividing by 10 patterns. All right, now moving on to doing multi-digit division with numbers outside of powers of 10. So we're going to look at the problem 24,000 divided by 600, and you'll notice now that we're not using a multiple of 10 here, or I mean we're using something bigger than a power of 10. We're using 600 as opposed to 10 or 100, which is very similar to what we did before, or using the strategies that we did before. We're just going to break it down just a little bit. So step 1 is you want to decompose the divisor using either like the theory of divide by tens or the powers of 10. And our divisor is always the second number. If you're in a division like this, your divisor is going to be that outside number here. So thinking about 600, how can I decompose this, or what could I decompose this into? And knowing that I want it to be something in the powers of 10, something that's easiest, I'm looking here and I know that it's in hundreds. So I am going to use hundreds because that would be the easiest. And I know that 6 times 100 is equal to 600. So I can insert these values of 6 and 100 into a new division equation. So step 2 is just to rewrite the equation using these new numbers. So I would take 24,000 and then, because I'm going to be solving using kind of the PEMDAS philosophy and I'm going to be going from left to right, I want to divide by my 100 powers of 10 number first. And then I'm going to divide by my other factor. So I've rewritten 24,000 divided by 600 as 24,000 divided by 100 and then divided by 6. Step 3 is just to solve and using PEMDAS going from that left to the right. So the first equation we're going to start with is 24,000 divided by 100. And when you are dividing by hundreds, you know that you can move your decimal over as many zeros as we have. And since we have 2, we can move over 1, 2. So my new number is 240. And then I take the rest of my equation and I bring it down. So I'm 240 divided by 6. And for me, horizontal multiplication is hard to visualize, so I like to rewrite it using this just so it's easier for me to see. So it would be 240 divided by 6. So I'd ask myself, how many times does 6 go into 24 first? And that answer is 4. So I put that up here. And then 4 times 6 is 24. So I minus that 24, which is 0. And I bring this 0 down, which is also 0. And then I would ask myself, how many times does 6 go into 0, which is 0. So here is my answer. 24,000 divided by 600 equals 40.